All right, everybody, you know what time it is. Look to the left that you out of toilet paper, but before you stand up, make sure you give us some love to this channel. We know y'all out there listening for free. Give us the HBO special. You know what that means. Help a brother out. So come on, give us your support, baby.
Yo, Mana Squad, if you like any of the cards you see in today's video, make sure to hit up the affiliate link down below to TCG Player. You can help look up some of your local game stores in the process and help show the channel some love. And you know you got to look good while you play in order to play good. So make sure you hit up our link to Into the AM as well. We have the discount code down in the description below. Look, you got to listen to Kenneth the Heathen. He always says something about dripping in space and screaming. We don't know what it means, but do what the man says. And last but not least, hit up Heavy Play. Heavy Play is going to have some of the nicest playmats and deck boxes out there. Their magnet system between their deck box and dice trays and playmat is amazing, especially if you're playing at like bars, restaurants, stuff like that. You got to get up and move. There is no better way to keep all your stuff together, and you can show the channel some love in the process. Stay petty.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Command Center, where we like to put our favorite commander, maybe even yours, front and center. And you know we can't do it unless we play those three hyper-focused letters, EDH. What does it stand for today, Hadoken?
It stands for Embracing a Devilish Horizon. That's right, a new set is coming out, and man, is it full of a bunch of filthy, disgusting things. You know what I'm talking about, like a Arby's value meals, some stuff that you get you don't want. But I like to give a shot. But what we talking about today, Derek? What are we getting into?
Oh, there's a lot going on. It's a thing that we wanted to talk about for a while, but Modern Horizons 3 I think has really pushed it to the forefront, and it's both the power level of Commander and how that relates to how we like to play, how it relates to us being petty, and the complexity of Commander and how it relates to how we like to play and how it relates to being petty. Because I feel like it's something that's been discussed a lot, but looking at what's being like pooped out into Modern Horizons 3 makes me reevaluate a lot of things, especially because, like, yeah, I get it's called Modern Horizons, but it's going to break. I feel like it's going to break more. Like, I feel like there's a lot of formats that are just going to basically everything outside of Standard is going to face repercussions from what is happening in Modern Horizons right now.
To quote the great Prince Vegetables, it's over 9,000. Let me tell you something right now, all right? This is a Commander Legends set.
Did you just refer to Vegeta
Commander
as
Legends.
Prince Vegetables?
It's Prince Vegetables, okay? Yes, it is, okay? Everybody knows all the sayings are named after vegetables, okay? You know, let me tell you why? Full of vitamin C me outside. That's why, all right? It's Prince Vegetables, Piccolo is pickles. I think Piccolo is that musical instruments that 3-year-olds play. I don't know.
Wait, so Goku
Nappa
was Kakarot. He's a carrot.
Right.
Yep. Raditz is Raditz.
Whoa,
radishes.
This is mind-blowing.
Are you serious?
I didn't think about vegetables when I watched Dragon Ball Z before. Like, that was just never something that was on my mind, so I didn't realize that was a...
Yeah, Nappa is cabbage. I think Bodark, his dad is like burdock root.
Oh, they should have done the villains as fruit, and it would have been like an epic fruit versus veggies.
Wait, you don't remember the Spice Boys?
The Spice Boys?
Mustard, Garlic Jr.
You could just be making all this. I have not seen Dragon Ball Z.
I am not kidding.
This is from Dragon Ball. We know he didn't watch Dragon Ball.
Oh, I did not watch. I don't think I watched Dragon Ball.
No. That was Dragon Ball Z when Garlic Jr. came back.
Yeah, but where'd he come from?
Arby's. Garlic Jr. came from Arby's, and that was the origins of all of this.
Cabinet. He came from the seasoning cabinet.
I'm talking like I watched Dragon Ball. Anyway, let's get back on topic.
This is the fastest, and this is a good thing, but that's the fastest we've ever gotten unhinged in an episode. We didn't even make it like 2 minutes before we got sidetracked. So
yeah, he's the prince of all vegetables.
I'll keep that in
mind. But like
mind.
I was saying, it's over 9,000. So basically, it's a Commander Legend set. Every card that I see in this set, I was like, that's a Commander set. That's a Commander. That goes in this. That goes in that. But yeah, it's basically broken.
Yeah, it's something, and you mentioned that like, every set's a Commander set, and I think that has tied a lot into just the general power level of Commander. As you kind of go through and play in stores and stuff, it kind of sticks out that every set now, like I remember, and this isn't even going back that far, but when I started playing back, I think it was like 2016, 2017, whenever it was, every set, you would like get really excited for spoiler season. You would see this card spoiled. There'd be like a handful of legendary creatures and maybe like 4 or 5 cards that were like really exciting for Commander, maybe. And then so every set you kind of dug through to see like, okay, cool, what is Commander gonna get? You get your few toys, and then people figure out where to use them. I remember even like for like podcasts and stuff at the time doing set reviews, they would review all the cards, and half the cards they'd be like, doesn't really do much, not super exciting, and just to have something to talk about. Whereas like now, obviously, with the design team is very cognizant of Commander. It feels like every time they design a card, whether it's for another format or not, they're also thinking, well, how can we make this work in Commander? And so every set, instead of getting like 4 or 5 toys, Commander's getting 100 toys. And as that happens progressively over time, the power level is just creeping up and creeping up and creeping up. And the first thing I want to talk about with y'all is, am I just a crazy person who yells at myself in the mirror thinking this, or are you also seeing this in like LGSs? Are you seeing this when you play with friends? Like, is this something that's noticeable, or is it something that's more of just like a talking point?
Well, I will say, okay, it's kind of, and so what they say, the average human attention span is like 15 seconds, 15 minutes at most, and now with TikTok and Instagram it's 15 seconds. But I think that people are so inundated with things and stuff. It's like, okay, now it's like stuff overloaded. We're overloaded with and inundated with too much stuff right now. Case in point, hate to jump on the side tangent, Deadpool. I'm looking forward to Deadpool 3, Deadpool and Wolverine, which technically is not Deadpool 3, but it's Deadpool and Wolverine. But I've seen so many spoilers that I don't care about the damn movie anymore. Shut up and let me watch it. Sorry, okay, but to get back to the point, yes, I am seeing this in our local LGSs because story time. I was at one of my local LGSs playing, and I was playing with a guy, and he was like, and after everybody left, it was just us two at the table. He was like, "Man, I've only been playing Magic for like a year, and honestly, I'm finding it difficult to actually stay in the game and actually want to play." And I was like, "Wait, what's going on?" He's like, "Well, I'm trying to learn the game, but every pod that I'm getting into is playing increasingly more powerful decks." And it's like, I'm trying to sit here and learn. I'm trying to read the cards and understand what they do. But everything is so complicated that I can't just sit down and play and enjoy the game. And he was like, well, then I have to build these outlandish decks just so I can participate. And then he's like, that's not fun. And I was like, I understand that sentiment 1,000%. Because I too walk that line where I'm like, is this fun? Because I'm not a fan of competitive Magic. It's not my thing. If you're into that, go in the corner and eat some chicken and eat some yogurt. I don't care. Go over there. You go over there. You cry to the big floaty scary dude over there. All right. We're gonna sit over here and play our regular missionary commander. All right. You go over there with that other crap.
So, yes, I would say. I said, do you notice the similar? Are you noticing similar things popping up with that, or have you had a different experience?
Yeah, so I'm just going to use myself as an example because just over the past year, I've kind of been dipping in and out of Magic as far as having time and availability to play with our play group and whatnot. So I remember playing heavy, like, let's say early last fall, and got a bunch of games in, and we knew what was coming out last fall. I can't really remember the sets right now, but I was pretty happy with where my decks were. I took some time off, came back to the LGS, playing with the play group and whatnot, and every night, every round, I'm getting blown out of the water. Like, wait, what happened to the format over the past 4 or 5 months? Like, what is like, these decks are like crazy strong, whether they be pre-cons or whether they're stuff that our friends cobble together. And so I found myself like fighting, you know this experience, Derek, fighting against pre-cons with your life. Like, I'm fighting for my life. I'm fighting for my life here. and so I found myself doing the same thing, and it just kind of got to the point where it's like, all right, I'm going to have to either adapt or not enjoy the game as much. And like Ken, I also do not enjoy the more competitive games just because there's a lot you have to pay attention to, and it's almost like a race. It's almost like an arms race, and then it starts feeling like cEDH to me, and I don't really want to get into that. But every now and then, I do like a high powered game, and so I was like, okay, maybe I should start just adjusting my decks to be a little bit more high powered, work a little bit faster, and I'll just make 1 or 2 of those and set those to the side, have them as break in case of emergency decks but if my entire play group is playing like this every week, man, and like I said, I'm using myself as an example. We just played recently over webcam.
Yeah.
I threw together a couple cute decks, and I forgot who I was playing with. Because turn 4,
gosh.
we're facing down an army of dinosaurs, and I'm like, wait, my deck can't. It's not. It's just a little synergy thing. But anyway, I digress. Like, I hate dinosaurs.
No, I mean,
First of all,
yeah. Sorry, you got it, Ken.
sorry. First of all, CDH is for people who arm wrestles 5-year-olds, all right? And then brag about it. Let's put that on the wood right there, okay? Let me tell you about yourself, all right? CDH people are the people who bring, the potato salad with walnut and grapes to the family cookout. Knowing good and well ain't nobody eating. And then they gonna sit there and complain that nobody's eating it too. You knew good and well when you put spicy mustard in your potato salad that nobody was gonna taste it, Greg. So that's what I feel like. They come in and they don't even fart and leave the room. They fart, sit in it, and look at you. And I'm like, not only are you gross, but you're a terrible person.
I'm gonna have to disagree slightly with Ken on this one. Just having met
About the food point or the CDH?
No, on the food. I agree with him on the food point. Stop bringing nasty potato salad. Anyway,
Thank you. Yeah.
the CEDH players, they get a bad rep. We're about 40% responsible for that. But having met some CEDH people, I've even participated in a game or 2 of CEDH. I don't know. It happened so fast. I kind of blinked and missed it. But anyway, I feel like CEDH people are the people who announce themselves when they walk in a room.
Yes.
They want you to know what they're here for. And they're just looking for the people who want to have that same who have that same energy. So I think the CDH people are kind of fine right now. They're loving what's coming out, maybe hating it. I don't know. I don't really talk to them that often. But basically,
you're trying to be diplomatic.
No,
you're trying to be diplomatic right now. I'm trying to start a war right now. CDH people don't wash their legs in the shower. They just let the water run down and hit it.
What I will say is
That's right. They don't use washcloths. They use head on body. Just head, soap, body. Gross.
yes, I am trying to be diplomatic in the sense that I'm gonna let CDH people do their thing because they let Commander people do their thing. So
what I want to say though,
we are an army.
What I want to say though is, Ken, I think I know it, but I don't think it's CDH because I will say I've never had a bad experience with a CDH player. Like CDH, like to echo what Cedh said, every time I played somebody or been around somebody that plays cEDH, and specifically cEDH, not like super high power casual, cEDH players will literally be like, we are looking for a cEDH game. Half the time, if you sit down and you don't have a cEDH deck, they don't even want to play in a game with you because they know like they're not there for most cEDH players that I've met don't even care necessarily about like the winning isn't the thing that gets them like excited and into the game. It's like the stack interactions. They want a game where there's 50 counter spells on turn 3 or like 50 instant spells, speed spells on turn 4, and the stack is like a mile high. And we'll get into more examples. It's more so the people that roll up to a table saying, oh, this is like 100% a 6, and then pub stomp the whole table playing fast mana and the most powerful cards possible. But it's not. It's that weird in between that I've noticed the most feel bads. It's like you're not a casual player. You're definitely not cEDH, but you're in this like middle ground of like, I'm gonna play cEDH level cards in a way that isn't cEDH, and then just pub stomp everyone that I come across in the meantime, basically. And you end up in this like weird in between.
Let me address that one more shot to the CDH player, just because. CDH players, I've seen one. You know what they do? They go inside a porta potty and take deep breaths. That's what they do. Okay. Now, just let me fill my lungs with this gross. Now, let me address the point that you brought up right quick.
Okay.
I think we need to get away from this whole number system because
Yes.
it is nebulous as hell. If I come to the table and tell you that I have a 5, what does that mean? You don't know me from a can of paint. That is the dumbest thing that people keep dumbing. So what's your power level? I don't know, Sean, who just met me. You don't know what I think of power in terms of Magic. So I'm going to call it a 54 because it doesn't matter. And then when they sit there and then they fold you like cheap laundry and you're like, I thought you had a 6. I don't know what your 6 is. I don't know what your 6 is. That's why when people ask me that, I look at them sideways like, what does that mean? Here's a better question that you ask. In what turn does your deck normally win? And if you average out your deck, what turn does it normally win? And or the second question, what turn does it normally lock everybody out? And I think that is a better approach to Magic.
No,
if you tell me that it wins.
No, I was gonna say that's a great. That second question you just brought up is so key because I've never asked that. I've definitely asked. Typically my 3 questions are: do you run fast mana? Do you run combos? And what turn does your deck typically win? That's usually my first 3 questions. Of like, if you have fast mana, I'm probably not gonna want to sit in a pod with you in most times because my decks won't keep up. Are you trying to win in turn 5? I have no interest in that. That's not my thing. And are you playing a super combo centric deck? It's good to know going into a game so there's not a feel bad of like, well, we didn't know we were doing that. But that lock question is a good one because I had talking about examples of like not knowing what to expect. I had an experience similar where someone said they were playing a thematic deck based on a character, this and that recently. I was all excited because it was like a generic commander. It was like a little known character in the deck. I was like, this is great. And the dude played a full stacks deck and basically said, I need to lock the whole board so this character can kill everyone. And I was like, well, that's not, you just lied to everybody. Like, you just did that so you could see everybody get upset. Like, that's not, nobody had fun. Like, we didn't know that going in. Stacks is always one of those things. It's a great example of this conversation is going into a game knowing there's a stacks player can be one of the most fun experiences ever if you've never done it. It's just a puzzle. It literally is like playing a different game. It's almost like a plane chase type thing. But there's also the worst experience ever of going into a game not knowing you're about to get stacked. So I think that extra question's a great one to ask.
Also ask, do you run land destruction? And then if they say yes, then I ask them a follow-up question, who's your emergency contact? Because I'm about to fold you up completely away from this table if you come here with that bull.
Well, one thing I find interesting now, though, and this kind of transitions us to a next point, but a really good point is, I don't remember having to ask this many questions 6 years ago when I played Commander. Mm-hmm. And it gets hard. If you have a play group, this is super easy. You can talk to your friends about what their decks are doing. You talk to each other all the time. You know what the decks do. You can prepare. If you're someone like myself, for example, I moved to a new city recently. I go to a lot of random game stores, play with people I just met. It's really hard to play fucking 21 questions with random people every time you're sitting down for a game without them looking at you like, what is wrong with you? Like, why are you asking? Because it's like, we're super involved in the community part of it and all this, but most people aren't. Most people may have watched a YouTube video a couple times. Most people may have been on Twitter. Like, they don't spend, so like this whole concept of like Rule Zero and all these, a lot of times when I ask people beforehand, they give me kind of a funny look of like, why are you asking me these questions? Like, nobody asked me this. Why are you doing this? So when you add to the list of questions, it can become like, that's literally what they feel like. And so like, you know, whether it's conventions or anything else, the longer the list of questions you have to ask to find a good match game, because there's so much busted stuff happening in Commander now, it gets more and more awkward just finding games of like, oh gosh, like I don't want to, half the time I don't even ask anymore. Like, you know what, if I just get pub stomped, I don't care. I don't want to sit here and interrogate 3 people for 5 minutes to figure out. And the worst part is most times they're like, well, I only have one deck anyway. And it's like, well, why did I just spend 15 minutes asking what the hell everybody's trying to do? So
yeah. But honestly, sometimes if you can, just trying to use context clues when you're playing the game. Because you know when you see certain things and people pull out certain cards, you kind of, and this is only for experienced players, because if you knew, I'm just going to say run as fast as you can, go get some help. But if you're a newer player and you've been around the scene long enough, you've seen these combinations enough where you're like, okay, I'm seeing this card, I'm seeing Smothering Tide. I kind of know where this is leaning to, so you try to plan accordingly, especially with your decks. That's why I always build like a toolbox deck that's built for many situations. And, you know, just read the clues on a person. And even when you first meet them, you kind of get a sense. and a lot of people have stigmas in the play group too. Like everybody has legends about them in their play groups, and like you were like, oh yeah, that guy. Oh, that guy's salty as hell if you stop his combos. Oh, that dude over there. Oh yeah, he just hits strong and plays a lot of high CMC decks. Oh, that person over there, they walk outside with no shoes on. Let me tell you something right now. That's one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life. Let me explain why. I'm sorry to go on this tangent, but I just saw some stuff like this and I thought it was entirely too gross. Everything is outside. I see dogs pee on concretes. I see birds dookie. I see people dropping whole potato salads because they got grape and spicy mustard in it, Greg. I see all this stuff. And then you gonna walk your natural behind on this ground and you gonna carry it into, first of all, into your house. So now your house is filthy. This is just gross. Wear shoes. I don't even care if you running out to check the mail. Put shoes on.
Well, then people don't wash their feet, Ken. I heard that. I found that out the other day. People out there just raw dogging it in the shower. No soap on the feet. It. No soap.
No,
this is insane.
No. I thought when somebody told me that stat that people didn't wash their legs, I thought that was a lie from the pits of hell. I'm just sitting there like, because it's like, first of all, it's you bending over. You letting gravity do most of the work. And now you telling me people just literally think water is going to run down and clean them. You are filthy.
Especially, people have disgusting feet to begin with. Like, I kind of understand, like, maybe, like, the front of your shins, maybe those get washed. I don't think it's a good idea. But, like, how in the world are you going to rely? You're walking around with nasty-ass shoes all day, socks that probably been too, like, I can't even, and then just nothing. Just, like, I'm going to let some water run on it. Like,
I'm just going to let some water, like, you just don't get just blessed by a whole bath. Like, no, stop. Oh, and then people who ain't wiping both ways. That's a whole side conversation. We ain't gonna even.
That's for next episode. That is for next episode.
You can't just wipe in one direction, people.
So,
all right.
So where were we before the tangent?
Put a bookmark in it. Yeah, that's a bookmark. I have questions for that for later, Ken. So where we're at now is the last thing I want. We were talking about the power level, and really what I wanted to transition to was: do you all feel like it is even possible to play like true casual Commander anymore? Because, like, when I think of casual Commander, I think of playing thematic, very, like, less than efficient decks. I think of choosing not to play, in today's world, choosing not to play all the staples. Like, one of my favorite, I always think of, like, playing decks based on limited formats. So, like, I know a deck that I used to love, I think is a good example, that I just can't really play anymore. I used to have my Villainous Wealth deck. That was a Tassiger deck that I played for years with you guys, to the point where Ken still hates Villainous Wealth. But I had put it together, this is a few years back. This is a deck that typically didn't start casting Villainous Wealth or doing its thing till turn like 9 or 10. Like, it was a slow deck. It just ramped, played some cool creatures, like big stompy stuff, and then tried to Villainous Wealth towards the end of the game. I had to stop playing it because it got to the point where, I remember back in the day, I would cast Villainous Wealth like 5-6 times in a game. It was exciting, this and that. It got to the point where I basically... Oh, yeah, anytime I could. You run big shit. It's great. But, like, every time I was not getting to cast it at all. Every time I got to the point where I'd start doing my thing, I was just dead. The format sped up so much that it was like, unless I wanted to turn it in like a turbo combo, infinite mana type deal, it just couldn't keep up. I've noticed the same thing. I have a spider spawning deck based around Innistrad Unlimited, and I still play it, and it can do things, but very, like, I would say probably like 70% of the time if I play that deck, I'm dead before I even get to do the thing that I even want to do. It's not even winning the game. It's just casting a spell that I want to get involved. Like, it feels like the cool, goofy ideas or the random brews you come up with at 2 a.m. don't survive unless you have a play group. How do y'all feel about that?
Yeah, so it's pretty much, I kind of equate it to the convention experience. And before I go too deeper into that, I guess what we're having a hard time with is defining and all these terms and whatnot, like power levels and maybe even power creep to an extent, how we define that. But even just defining casual itself, like, people have different definitions of casual for them, and I think we started getting into a problem when we started get into those weeds, and we try to have, I think what's happening is we're trying to have a common language around a community of Magic players, and yeah, we can be speaking the same language, but then at the same time, some of those terms still mean different things to us based on where we are and who we play with. So, yeah, it's getting a little bit harder to kind of parse out what type of game experience you want to have. And so by you having that questionnaire at the beginning, hey, do you have are you running fast mana? Are you running combos? Will you date me? You know, like all these things, like it's a whole checklist of just like what type of game experience are we about to have before we even shuffle up. And it's starting to get a little bit tiring.
Would you rather be trapped? Yeah, would you rather be trapped in the game with a bear or a man? You know, stuff like that.
Yeah,
But
like I can appreciate some psychological questions like that, but maybe not before I play Magic. Maybe sometimes we'll say that for a future episode. The psychology of Magic players. But
and piggybacking off the psychology for like 2 seconds. Sorry to jump in.
Yeah.
Of the psychology, I think, and this is where, and I get where you say this is difficult to pin down, because of everybody's intentions with the game. Some people are literally just there to win. They're very spiteful, so of course they're going to hide the information because their whole point of playing this is to win at all costs. No shade to those people at all. You play your game however you play it. I will never tell somebody how they should play a game. I'm just going to tell you that I'm not going to play with you. That's all I'll do. So when it comes down to that, it's just understanding psychology and understanding that you only get one time to burn me, and that's it. So if you tell me one thing and you show me something different, and I get every now and then people be like, my deck has never done this before. I was like, okay, whatever. But you know what its intention was, and you know how fast that this deck can pop off. And you knew when you drew your 7, when you drew your 7, you knew, all right, this is gonna be a 2-turn clock. You knew that when you got your 7. And everybody, and I'm not gonna sit here and believe that everybody's oblivious to the fact that what the deck that they build can do. Now, if you're borrowing somebody else's deck and this happens, I get it 1,000%. But everybody who builds their deck knows its true potential. So that's one thing is understand when it comes to psychology, knowing the type of personality that you're dealing with. Are you dealing with somebody who's in the spirit of casual play, or somebody who's just trying to dominate the board? And like I said, if that's you, I might play a game or two with you, but then after that, I'm gonna get up and move. Because Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, you got it. You finish what you're saying first.
Yeah, I think we both have some questions to follow up with.
And I was like, one key thing that I think a lot of people are missing is that the whole point of this is that it's a game and that it's a distraction. It's not life. So after the game is over with, I'm going to go handle other stuff. I'm not going to think about this. I'm not going to move on. But like I said, it's just degrees of personalities that come into this.
Cedh, you can get the question first because I know you had one as well.
Yeah. So just kind of profiling the players and their intentions and whatnot. Can we really say the same thing about newer players coming in? Like they don't necessarily have the same access to information that you're talking about, or oops combos and whatnot. So do we feel like into this day and age, like of course newer players can oops combo, but at the same time, like what are our expectations of players that we meet in a while? So I'll also sometimes ask people, how long have you been playing, just to kind of get an idea of what do they know, like game knowledge, and what could they have possibly have seen, and what type of interactions have they possibly have had. So that's something that I kind of bring up during the game, just kind of getting to know people, not necessarily before my checklist before the game. Gotta save some of those important questions, like do you prefer raspberries or strawberries? So
hot wings with lemon pepper or not? And if you say lemon pepper, get out of my house.
So yeah,
you don't like lemon pepper?
No, lemon pepper is gross, man. I don't get putting lemon. And first of all, the pepper is nebulous. You're not even tasting the pepper. So let's get that lie out of here in the first place. But lemon pepper wings is. You want me to tell you the go-to wing flavor?
Get out of Atlanta. Just get out of Atlanta.
It's honey. It's honey garlic hot. Honey garlic hot.
Sure.
All right.
You know what they call? Anyway. Actually, they have a name. They have a name for that. Actually, as a wing preference, it's called wrong. And I'm gonna could jump into what I was gonna say.
Booking flight to Arizona.
I have a follow-up question as well. So, bouncing off what you're saying, that's a really good point because I think based on how a game unfolds, a lot of people have this has never happened before. My deck doesn't do this, is not. A couple signpost things. One, I didn't even think of that. That's a great point. Is someone a newer player? Because honestly, if someone's a newer player, they might not see certain synergies there. They might have just gotten a deck from online, like a deck list, put a bunch of cards together, and didn't realize, oh wow, like this is what happens. Which 100% understandable. Like we'll get into complexity in a second, but with the way decks are today, like there's so many synergies in it, it's very easy to miss something. But the other thing that I've started doing is my threat assessment has changed so much recently, in that I used to pay more attention to board states, who was in the lead, this and that. It's gotten to the point now, if I'm playing with like y'all, and I kind of know we're all on the same page, I'll use normal threat assessment. When I'm playing with like random people, I use signpost cards way more than what someone's deck is doing, because a lot of my decks, I choose not to run most of the like staples, quote unquote, outside of a few. So there's like no Ristic Studies, no Smothering Tides, no Mana Crypts, that type of stuff. Like I don't run that in really any. I don't think I run those in any types of decks at all. So when I'm playing against a deck, if I see someone who drops Esper Sentinel, Ristic Study, Smothering Tide in the first like 3 turns, my first thought is, I don't have the individual card power level to keep up with everything you're dropping. You're a threat to me, because your individual cards are so busted that regardless of what synergies are your board state, I know you're going to keep dropping stuff that is going to be more powerful than the individual things I'm doing. But my other thought is, if someone stumbles into a huge board state and you look at their cards and they're just playing quote unquote fair cards, they're playing cool synergies, I can 100% believe that that doesn't normally happen, or it's a cool synergy that they're very excited to put forward. To me, someone jumping out into a lead with random cards I haven't seen before is so much different than someone jumping out to a lead because they dropped a Jeweled Lotus and then they have a Ristic Study and a Smothering Tide and they're out in front. So I've much more learned to target the players for playing individual cards than I have, because my mindset is, if you're willing to play a Jeweled Lotus and a Ristic Study, let's say, in your deck, then what else are you willing to play? It's like if someone reveals they have a OG Vorinclex that taps everyone down and locks everyone out in their deck at some point. No, I'm just going to attack you from now on, because if that's in there, what the hell else is in there? And so, like, yeah.
Well, it also, and this is also comes to the whole personality question, because I will, and it also, we also forgetting too, another variable that we need to add to this equation is also their price point, because I'm pretty sure when they play a couple of cards, like you said before, you notice some pricey cards in there, your mind starts ticking that, okay, if you can afford that, then I know you can afford another couple of cards that shouldn't be in there. And on top of that, if you do have that extra income to do that, meta decking is a very big thing, especially with new players, because they don't want to get stumped out. So if they have the income and the means, chances are, like I've seen new players come out with Jewel Lotuses and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't even have a Jewel Lotus. I will see you in the parking lot after this. But
yeah,
one thing I would tell people, especially if you're trying to fill out your play pod and you're trying to understand the people that you're playing with, what I would tell people to do is play cards like Duress, Thoughtseize, or even cards like, one of my favorite cards is Extract. So Extract is 1 blue. It searches target player's library for a card and remove that card from the game. Then that player shuffles their card. Shuffle his or her card. Her library, apologize. Now, the reason I play cards like this in particular is, especially against new players or people I don't know, is so I can assess what they got and going on. So I can literally look through it.
You're not taking anybody's word for
it. Only person you're supposed to trust is your mom, and even still, you still cut the deck. So, with that being said, I use Extract, and I will literally parse through their deck and be like, okay, this person is a horrible human being, all right, and we need to destroy them with everything that they have. And I'll take their main combo piece out and say, you will never get this back, and then fling it across the room and hit Brian in the forehead.
The funniest thing is, if you told me that maybe 4 years ago, I would have looked at you like you were crazy and been like, yo, that's a little bit much. But honestly, if you were at the table with me and you did that, I would be excited, because one, either you're going to look through my deck and see that half of my deck is just random shit that, yeah, you're not worried about it. Or two, you're going to expose someone else at the table for bringing a bazooka to a water balloon fight. And that is,
yeah,
that's appreciated.
Sometimes I play the 1-drop instant for blue, Spy Network. You guys have probably seen this card. And I do it just to bug people, just to mess with people, just to give you the idea that I could probably look through your deck. But for 1 blue, look at the top, look at target player's hand, the top card of that player's library, and any face down creatures they control, and then you can look at the top 4 of your library and put them back in any order. First of all, that card is doing way too much for 1 blue mana. But second of all, it's just the idea that it's like, wait, you just looked at my hand and the top of my library. Like, that's intrusive and a little bit invasive, and maybe you can figure out what I have going on here. Like, that's a card that I continuously to this day play.
Yeah, it's like going into somebody's house and you open up their refrigerator and finding out that ketchup and mustard is in there. By the way, you do not put ketchup in the refrigerator. It is vinegar based. You do not have to put it in the refrigerator. Neither do you have to put
it says
mustard.
refrigerate after opening.
That is a lie from the pits of hell.
It
okay,
is not.
I have a question.
There are sugars
question
in there
for you.
still, which bacteria love. You can still have
Okay, so
tainted
go ahead.
tainted tomatoes. You can go.
I can prove I can shut you down all the way with this. Okay, when you go to most restaurants, where are the ketchup bottles?
They're sealed. Oh, I guess.
No, they're not.
I still don't
They're
trust
on the table.
I don't.
They're on the table. Okay, when you get ketchup packages, are they sealed and are they in refrigerators?
Well, the packets
No,
are sealed, so that's if it's sealed, it's not an issue. The tabletop ketchup, I am now incredibly sketched out about. I have not thought about that, but
See, boom.
I'm still now. You just make me not want to eat at restaurants. That's all that's accomplished. My ketchup is staying in my fridge, and I'm just not going to eat out anymore.
Cold ketchup upsets the balance of hot. First of all, if you put ketchup on fries, you're a whole heathen anyway. All right, that's a whole nother conversation for
That's for next episode.
But
so let's
that's next.
let's move on. Before,
But anyway,
yeah,
peeking in somebody's hand. But yeah, I that is a must, especially in a format where you can't trust anybody.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I've been in too many situations where somebody will sit there like, oh yeah, nah, my deck's not that powerful. It doesn't do that much. And turn one, how many times have we played a game with somebody and they literally empty their hand on turn one?
Yeah, no, it happens between I would say turn 1, 2, and 3. The amount of times I've sat down and immediately the game turns into well, now we all got to politic against this one person, or else we're just gonna have a non-game. It happen. It feels like it happens more and more. Like there are so many redundant power pieces. But I do want to kind of circle over to another topic real quick, because we're going to end up tying this into Modern Horizons 3, believe it or not, and it's not going to involve ketchup. But one of the things with power creep, and it's not going to be as long of a discussion, but how do y'all feel with complexity creep tying into this? And this could be a whole episode by itself, but with power, it's a whole conversation. The issues that we've seen with power are that it keeps getting more and more powerful, and it's really hard to get everybody on the same page. I would say with complexity, the one positive, it feels like the whole player base is on the same page, in that everyone's confused at what half the cards do. But tracking and everything, if you're a casual player, and this isn't even necessarily deck building, if your mindset is more casual, if you only play every once in a while, you're not paying attention to new sets, you're not listening to podcasts, that type of stuff, except ours, obviously. So this is how you're being exposed to it. If you're not deep into the community with it, how do you deal with the increased complexity? Because when you sit at a game now, there are 75 triggers happening. It's not like it used to be, as I sound like the old man yelling at clouds, where you sit in a game and you know what every card does. You could just sit back, have a drink, talk to your friends, socialize, and somebody's casting. Every time someone casts a spell, you're like, I know what that does. Cool. We just keep going. It's not like that anymore. Now you need to read every card, and it's also triggering 7 different cards. So do you all have a strategy on dealing with that, or is it just close your eyes and just take everyone's word for it?
Yes, I have a strategy for dealing with stuff like that. We preach it every time we go over new sets. Removal, people. Play more removal. Once you get an idea or a glimpse of what a card does, you can start to kind of get an idea what the deck is trying to do. Like, okay, that does this, and it sounds like it synergizes with that commander you have there. It sounds like it probably synergizes with that altar or Phyrexia or whatever. Something needs to go. And then also, I know we asked for actual helpful tips, so I got a couple. So first, ask the table. What is the problem? What is the threat? Get a actual consensus from the table real quick, just so you can get an idea of where everyone's head is. And people who are honest, we got to frame it in that context. they'll be like, yeah, I'm the threat. Like, hey, this is probably going to synergize with this. If I get one more piece, if I draw the right card, it's going to do blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, axe the table, pause the game for a second to wrap your mind around what is going on, what is happening right there. Because sometimes people can check out, like we talked about attention span already. So pause the game for a brief second just to figure out what the hell is going on the board, what the board state is saying. Second idea real quick before we jump in. I think I had it. I think I lost it. Second idea. Oh, yeah, removal. Yes. So we preached, even though it sounds petty, play more removal. Once you start getting an idea of what some of these cards do, or if you're like Derek, he's just like, I'm too tired, I'm too drunk, I don't really care what to do. Everybody sacrifice all your creatures. Everyone, and make sure you're getting the sacrifice. Make sure you get those sacrifice removal pieces. I'm talking about Slaughter. I think it's like Slaughter the Strong is one of them. One of my newer favorite ones. It is basically like, I'm just gonna read it off of the card real quick. For 3 mana, 2 white and 1. Each player, I'm just looking up so I can get the right number real quick. Each player chooses a number of creatures they control with a total power of 4 or less, and then sacrifice all of the rest of the creatures they control. This sorcery removal has saved me in so many games where board states get too cluttered. I can't really tell what's going on. I don't know how many tokens are about to come at me next turn. You know what? Doesn't even matter. Just reset your board. Not to a state where you're going back to the Stone Ages, but like, let's get to a more manageable place in the board where we can all see what's going on here. So play more removal, pause the game, ask more questions.
Can I add an addendum to that?
Yeah.
Play more universal removal like your Beast Within or your Generous Gift. But Beast Within is the 3 mana green spell that says destroy target permanent, and then that controller gets a 3/3. And to get around, the hexproof stuff, like Cedh was saying, make sure you do your sack outlets. And one of the ones in particular I want to point out is something like this. I don't know why more black decks aren't running this. Plague Crafter. It's 2 in a black. When Plague Crafter enters this battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. So it helps clear around those tough, indestructible, hexproof creatures that people keep running, those nuisances. And
can I
another thing to
add another addendum before you move on too much? I think Chain Devil is one of those newer sacrifice cards too, because a lot of times people might skip over like Plague Crafter or who was one of our first sack zombies that come in.
Fleshbag Marauder, I think, was the OG.
The Dirtbag Marauder.
The
Dirtbag Marauder.
Dirt McGirt. We have things like Chain Devil now, which are for 3 and a black. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a non-token creature. So that gets around that whole people who play go wide with the tokens and whatnot. So playing sack effects that specifically go for things that get around those board clutter things as well. Sorry, continue on.
Oh, I got one more for you. Sheldress Edict.
Yes.
Sheldress Edict is instant for 2. It's it's a colorless and a black. And Sheldress Edict allows you to choose. So each opponent either sacrifices a non-token creature, each opponent sacrifices a creature, or each opponent sacrifices a planeswalker. First of all, this is a 2 mana that affects the entire board, and it's beautiful. So like I said, don't sleep on your edict effects, people. And when it was coming to the complexity part about it, and I was just taking a look at this about all the zones that exist. And so I'm looking at this, and we have an adventure, a flicker, a foretell, an imprint, a madness, a plot, and a suspend zone.
An auto zone.
And that's not even include auto
Get into
zone.
The
Frozone.
A Frozone. Where is my super suit?
Discovery Zone. God, Discovery Zone.
The end zone. the end zone.
One thing I'll say to kind of add on to the zone topic too is we also have so many types of tokens. Every game, everyone's making treasure tokens and clue tokens and food tokens and blood tokens, and you have random artifact tokens. It's every board state, even in more simplistic decks, is getting clogged. And I found myself, and I love that y'all brought up so many sacrifice effects, because of the fact that everything has ward attached to it in addition. So even if there is a problem, it's hard. The fact that there's complexity in even removing things now, in that, I have to figure out what extra resources to pay for a trigger that's going to go off. If I even want to remove something, forget the rest of the text on it. I think the weird back and forth that I suffer from a lot with this is the best way to solve really over complex, annoying board states is board wipes. But board wipes also make games miserable if there's too many played. And trying to find that balance of how do I run enough board wipes to clear up, because nobody, at least I think I can speak for most people, nobody enjoys like a gunked up board with so many permanents on everyone's board that no one knows what's happening. No one's even swinging because everyone has too many blockers, and it turns into this just like everyone's just staring because there's too many things to track. That's miserable, but it's also miserable to have everyone just wipe back like farewell, go get thrown into space. Like that card, farewell, is the one that you can choose any number, and I think it like exiles all graveyards, creatures, enchantments, family members, everyone you know and loved in your life, your life history, your degree, everything is exiled. And like that one is just awful. So that's not the solution. But trying to find, I guess, more interesting board wipes. So Cedh, you mentioned a great one where people get to keep some creatures. That's awesome. Or there's certain effects that only affect creatures, or there's certain bounce spells that only affect non-creatures. There's the instant that was from, it was from not Flashback. What was the set that nobody opened?
Was this Filter Out?
March of the Machine, Too Fast, Too Furious.
Filter
What
Out?
was it? Aftermath. Filter Out. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. We preached
March
about
of the
Filter
Machine,
Out
Too
for a
Fast,
while.
Too Furious. Yeah, well, it's a great example of one that you can ungunk a board without setting everything back to the Stone Age. And Filter Out is a 1/blue instant, just return all non-creature permanents to their owner's hands. Bam. Or non-creature, non-land, because that would be miserable if it bounced
non-creature,
lands.
non-lands. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say farewell is the only one that when it's cast, like you can feel the energy leave the room. It's like everybody's spirit breaks as one. It's like it's an actual audible spirit breaking. It's like biting into a burger and figuring out it's beyond meat, and you just sitting there just broken. Like I just want to go lay down right now. Like I am done with today. Because the last pod I was in, somebody cast a farewell, and I was like, I want to go play Uno.
I was about to say, it's accurate because everybody says farewell after it just pieces out, because like nobody is mentally checked in after that. So
That's why nobody like you, John.
Sticking with before we get off, I know we had a couple points
you're
about
good.
complexity we wanted to bring up before the show, like especially looking at Modern Horizons 3. Like we didn't even get 1 second into Modern Horizon 3 discussions before we started talking about Tameo. Because we were looking at some of those flip cards, like the flip creatures that turn into walkers, whatnot, and it was like, hey, before we even like dig too deep into how this card may or may not even be broken, what's the color identity on this card? Because I looked at it on his face and it was like, okay, mono blue, drawing cards. Okay, that's what blue does. And then come to find out, I looked at the back of it. Is this a Simic card? Is this really a Simic spell? So it's really a Simic deck.
It's funny because Commander itself has so many built-in complexities that other formats don't have, it being singleton and 4 players and all that. And it feels like some of them have just been taken to the extreme. Color identity is another one. Like no other format cares about color identity. It doesn't matter anywhere else as far as like Commander color identity goes. So normally, like we've always had dual face cards with color identities that were confusing, but it makes it's just like adding that just on top of everything else, especially in this case where you're getting legendary creatures that are flip cards that have weird color identities. Because in the past, it was like Westvale Abbey. It's a land, you sack a bunch of creatures, flips into a big giant demon. The demon has black color identity. Okay, that's easy enough to remember. It's just a card in your deck. Or there's an equipment that does something similar that flips into Withingar Unbound.
Yeah, Withingar.
Yeah. And so that one's another one. The color identity can be a bit confusing, and I get that. But when you have it on legendary creatures as well, you have all these appearingly monocolored legendary creatures that flip into 2-color planeswalkers. I'm just wondering how many times, especially for newer players, that's not the most... I guarantee a lot of newer players are going to open one of these in a pack, get really excited, throw it in their mono blue deck, and be very sad to find out they're playing an illegal deck when they flip it, and they're like, oh, I didn't realize that this little tiny symbol in the corner over here with the little circle meant that it was in another color. So Yeah.
Yeah, so the complexity is definitely going up. I have some friends that are currently they're learning Magic. They know a little bit already. We've kind of been going back and forth, but I'm actually just, I don't know if I'm just scared or just tired, mentally tired, to try to even teach Commander to them, because it's like I kind of want to try to see how they figure it out on their own, but then I feel like you might need to go to Commander University. Like you're gonna need to get a degree in this.
It's like explaining
quantum
physics
physics
to somebody who's new to anime.
Yeah, it's like explaining it's like explaining like the history of One Piece, even like
yeah,
not just explaining One Piece,
brand new to anime,
the history of One Piece.
Mm-hmm. So there was this guy, right, and he had this thing called the One Piece. We don't know what it is, but we kind of think.
But everybody's looking for it.
All right, and you got these. You got this devil fruit, right? And you eat a devil fruit, but a sword, a boat, and two elbows can eat them. Oh yeah, body parts can eat devil fruit too. Oh yeah, that's a whole thing too.
Yeah, you can.
And you get these magical.
Yeah, you can manufacture devil fruit. You can inanimate objects can eat devil fruit. Also, if a devil fruit if a person who has a devil fruit dies, the devil fruit will regrow somewhere in the world. So it's just like there's there's new rules every time you ask a question. There's a new but wait,
if you eat somebody with a devil fruit,
but wait, there's more. It just keeps going.
And that's the thing is Magic never needed. Magic was already such a complicated. No one ever started learning how to play Magic. You can go back to 15 years. No one ever started playing Magic and was like, you know what this game needs? More complexity. That's never been a thing. It's always been an incredibly complex game. So getting it to where not only is it more complex, but even for newer players. And I do want to tie in sort of transition point. What's up?
Wait a minute. You do know Shahrazad and all these other cards were in Magic before this, right? All these sub-game cards.
Oh, no, for sure. There was always those, but it wasn't. I think the difference is it's the average, almost like power level. The most powerful cards ever printed are from the 90s, in general. And the most complex cards and the weirdest cards were also from the 90s. But average power and average complexity, you also had vanilla creatures used to exist. And this is a crazy story for y'all out there. There used to be creatures that didn't have abilities. You just paid mana.
No text in it.
Just power toughness. And they had flavor text.
And they flavor text was, "We here." That's it.
We're just here so we don't get fined. Now, I want to transition over to Modern Horizons and look at all we've talked about through the scope of Modern Horizons, and really why I feel like Modern Horizons represents all of this. The one that everyone's talking about, and this is the most we've talked about it before, but I feel like we can't do the episode without mentioning it, is Nadu, it's a cute name, cute art for an absolute monster. So Nadu is the 1 blue and a green bird that essentially is just going to make a 4-hour turn that ends the game every time. Basically, each of your creatures, whenever they're targeted by anything, spell or ability, you get to go ahead, look at the top card. If it's a land, it goes straight into the battlefield untapped. If it's not a land, it goes into your hand. And it triggers twice per turn per creature. So, essentially, one, you're not drawing cards. So, Bowmasters, stuff like that, there's no card draw punishment. But two, you essentially can just put more lands into play more creatures, move your Lightning Greaves over, and just do this over and over and over again until you draw your whole deck, play all your lands. And there's certain ways that it's basically impossible to interact with if you have the right the right spells in hand. This is an example, I think, of just my concern. I guess we talk about power creep and things like that. Is when the fact that this card exists, why? In the sense of who is this for? Because my concern is that R&D does a good job making a lot of interesting new cards. Complexity is a whole different discussion, but for this to be designed terrifies me, because if they think this is what people want, there's more like this coming. So, yeah, Nadu's a lot, but I won't. That was just everybody. That's kind of a consensus. I want to talk about some more interesting cards real quick about kind of the power level and how do we feel that it relates to just what we view Commander as, or is it the same as always? So another one that's been talked about that's less universally opinionated on is Ulamog the Defiler. So Ulamog the Defiler is a 10-mana 7/7. When you cast this card, target opponent exiles half of their library, rounded up. It's got ward, sacrifice 2 permanents, and then it enters the battlefield with a number of +1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value amongst exiled cards, just period. So whatever the biggest spell was in half that deck, you're getting +1 counters.
Oh my god! I'm just reading this thing.
I love the genuine reaction we're getting. And then it has Annihilator X, where X is the number of +1 counters on it. So not only all that, even if you whiff on the exile, if you're in a +1 counter deck, you could just load them up or whatever. And then while Ken goes and changes his pants, said, do you want to give your... Because this is one, this is more nuanced. The Nadu conversation to me is not nuanced in that the card is miserable, awful, no one wants to see it. The kind of end of story. This is an interesting one to me. I think this has more like...
I definitely disagree with you. I think Nadu has built-in, even though it has the built-in limitations as far as the only drawing 2 cards per turn kind of thing, per creature or whatever. So you see the limit. You see the limit on that. Of course, there's going to be ways to break it, especially when you start talking about flickering maybe or something. I don't know. There's probably ways already out there to break it. But Ulamog to me speaks threat on every single line of text. Like everything about this card just says I'm a threat. First of all, the 10 casting cost doesn't whatever. We just played a game yesterday where our friend had 9 mana on turn 4. Yeah, whatever. So
and it's all colorless. That's the crazy thing for me. I will say that's the most interesting thing for the Ulamog in this sense is I was definitely expecting the new Titans to have diamond mana.
It seems like they got away from the diamond mana for some reason. But anyway, you're making the casting cost easier than the previous Ulamog, which had did the previous Ulamog have the diamond mana, or was that Kozilek?
That was Kozilek. The
Kozilek.
previous Ulamog, we had an Ulamog that was, I think the most recent one was the Exile 2, you exile 20 when it attacks.
Right. On attack, you had a chance. That's what I was saying. Like the second one, you had a chance. It had some restrictions a little bit. You had to at least swing with it. But the fact that you just cast this and someone gets their life wrecked, and then the fact that when it enters, it's going to enter with some more counters, so it's going to be even bigger than where it started. So it's just like it just screams threat all around. And to interact with it, you have to sacrifice 2 of your own things. So I do appreciate that it doesn't have evasion like indestructible or something weird like Emrakul had, like cannot be targeted by instances. But we'll get to Emrakul in just a second. So it's like I said, everything about this card just screams threat, and it needs to be removed. And I don't think that's a fun time unless you're trying to be the arch enemy and you're trying to end the game and you're trying to do all the things we talked about as far as like asserting dominance and all this stuff. Like this is not even a game ender for the table, just game ender for a player, like, or at least two players probably.
This is just offensive. Like this is just disgusting. Like I physically got upset when I saw. Like I haven't seen most of the cards in this set, and just reading that offhand. Like, we have to go outside. You owe me 5 minutes outside. And then the fact that its ward is Annihilator 2. We're not even mentioning that its ward is Annihilator 2. That's its ward. Annihilator 2.
Yep.
We just skipped over that part.
No. Yeah.
The ward is Annihilator 2.
Just to interact with it, you have to get rid of two of your own permanents.
No. You didn't say the right word, Sid. You tried to tone it down. You turned the volume down. I need you to turn it up so these people can hear them. Annihilator 2 is its ward cost. Get fucked. Are you serious?
This is the first recorded instance I've ever heard of Ken cussing on camera. So that's how you know Ulamog is a lot. Because like that, it's... Oh. So my question though for you guys, so we know the reaction, but... In the realm of this episode and the topics we're talking about, does this card individually, because separating busted crazy stuff from our conversation, does this represent complexity or power creep, or is this just in line with other busted things and it's just another big scary threat? Because I think that's the difference for me is, again, circling back, I'm using Nadu as the poster child. Nadu is increasing the complexity 1,000-fold because you're getting individual, every creature has this 2-instance thing you have to track. Throughout the entire course, you have all this. Power-wise, you're getting lands into play untapped. It's only 3 mana. Nadu for me is the peak of creep and power complexity, or power creep and complexity creep, just tied into one bucket of awful. Does this represent to you guys, and I'll save my answer for last, I guess, does this represent to you guys power creep or complexity creep, or is it just another big beater, another big Eldrazi like the other Titans?
I'm just gonna say it's not as complex as Nadu, only because like we're looking at the words on the card, but think about the play patterns of the people who are going to use this. So Nadu is, like you said, is keeping up with the 2 things per turn, so that's already hard to track already. Then, like we already mentioned, like possibly
Flickers.
Yeah, flickering maybe, or doing it on other people's turns. So now you're going to be interrupting other people's turns, and you're going to have to probably just trust that the person is know what they're doing. And when they're just like, if they're just doing whatever with their deck, and you just kind of have to trust it, then what are we doing? Like, it's like I just kind of have to believe that you got the win, or I want to see you play it out or see you talk it out. Sometimes is what we do. So it's just like, that's where the complexity comes in, because now you're taking up time, and now you have all these triggers. Whereas Ulamog is just literally just a big beater on every single line of text. It's just, I'm here to destroy your life. You may have to look up to see what the words mean, like Ward and Annihilator, for the newer players, but like, yeah, you can. There's something to keep. There's something to keep track of that. There's nothing you have to keep track of necessarily with Ulamog, other than just saying, "Hey, show me the highest thing that was exiled from your library," which will probably take the most time when it comes to this card.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say, I think that's the only headache I see with Ulamog tracking wise, complexity wise, is I played a lot of mill decks, so there's a lot of effects in Magic that mill half of your library. So trying to figure out exactly half of a deck is annoying sometimes, because you got to count. That's a bit annoying to track. And then, like you said, picking the specific mana value out and finding that can be a bit annoying. But outside of that, once it's in play, like you said, it's pretty simple. Big threatening thing.
Quick question. Sorry, just cut you off. What if What if you exile a double face card? What's the mana value on that? Yeah. I forgot.
I think it's the front. Double faced, I think, is the front, is what the mana value is when it's in a different zone. But I'm talking out my ass. So I actually think Ulamog is quote unquote like fine in my eyes, in the sense of there's so many 10+ cost creatures that already, when they're on the board, I always think of like Jingataxius or OG Vorinclex or some of the other Eldrazi Titans that we've gotten in the past. I mean, even Emrakul, that steals someone's turn and is protection from instants, flying, trample, 13/13, all these things. They all kind of represent that same realm of giant, scary creature. The thing that I love about creatures in this realm getting printed, as opposed to like a efficient 2-drop that's super power crept, is decks only have so many. The more efficient decks get, they only have so many slots for 10-drop creatures. Most decks are going to have maybe 1 10-drop. And if you're running like 17 10-drops in most decks, you're running at a very slow speed anyway. You're not going to get there very quick because you have so many 10-drops stuck in your hand. So in my eyes, Ulamog's just going to replace another big scary threat in a deck instead of becoming an additional big scary threat in most decks. At least the way I see it. If there's any decks...
Worker.
You say what?
Metal Worker.
Oh, no, for sure. There's definitely decks that synergize to get it out quicker. But at the same time, like, if you're running a Metal Worker deck, for example, with a bunch of artifacts, you only have... I mean, Ulamog's not an artifact. You only have so many slots for a random 10 mana value creature that doesn't synergize otherwise. Like, so in my head, nobody's going to go to their... Everybody has that. If you have a hyper-efficient deck, you're going to have 1 or 2 top-end threats. It's just going to replace one of those. So I think that is... Yes, speaking of, I have a threatening demonic presence behind me, and I'm not talking about old stick fingers. So, but yeah, we'll move on from Ulamog. I do think it's replacing threats as opposed to adding more, which I think is not necessarily an awful thing. I think it is a little complex. I do think it is a bit of power creep, but I don't think it's like the world is falling, we're all gonna die type deal. With that, I do kind of want to start drawing us to a close. I guess with closing thoughts from everybody on, with Modern Horizons 3 now out there, with everything we've discussed today as a closing thought, do you think there's been like a significant, I guess, addition to those issues with Modern Horizons, or is it just more of the same?
Yeah, 1,000%. I think it increases the issue, kind of like the fact that I don't know if you. I'm sorry. Hold on. This is kind of weird. Your cat has been tracking you this entire time. Like every time you move, it spots you as if you're doing something. And this is why I think they sinister as all hell, because like it doesn't know what you're doing right now. It literally just sees you staring at a window screen and it's just observing you. And every time you move, it tracks you. Like I don't know if you noticed this. Like it stalks you like it's waiting to eat you. And it has been very creepy because like it's you see what I'm talking about, Sid? You see what I'm talking about? Like the cat is literally looking over you like you could be tasty. Like one day you forget to feed him, you will be in the bowl next.
First of
Sorry
all,
to diverge.
First of all, I'm not copping to any of this on camera because I think he does understand what's going on, and I will not be listening to
like
this.
He knows.
Like the way his eyes were moving when you were saying some things, I'm like, wait a second, you were too self-aware to be an animal. Like,
All I know is
the Matrix is real.
All I know is I've never asked to be left alone with Derek's cat. That's all. Closing thoughts.
Anyway, yeah, the power creep is real. I think this is exacerbating it a little bit more. I think that they were just trying to, because Modern, from what I hear, because it is a lesser format, I don't pay attention to. From what I hear, Modern is a very intense format, and so they had to up the intensity. But we all know this is going to be disseminated into other format, which is why a lot of these cards were banned prior to their release in other formats like Pioneer and stuff.
Yeah, this is definitely not making me feel easier with the power creep. I will say there's probably going to be a lot of cards in here that a lot of people are going to miss. Just because of the more shiny things are going to kind of take precedent. So that's a little bit more what I'm excited about, that people are going to kind of miss the not as obvious shiny things to me, but it's going to be a fight, having to fight some of these things, and just knowing some of the people that we play with. I expect to see some of these things here, especially that Eldrazi dragon, the new Eldrazi Titans. I expect to see at least one of those show up. Yeah,
Eldrazi dragon. That's dumb.
No, there should have been an Eldrazi dragon before now, which is why we don't really have time for more sides. Anyway, basically overall, I'm just a little worried about the power creep. Also, still a little worried about the complexity as well, as what this episode is really trying to get at. Is that we got newer players, and I don't even know where to drop them off at. I don't know if they need a pre-con that's for like Universes Beyond pre-con. I don't know if they need a pre-con for a Modern. I don't know if they need a Clue theme set. I don't know. Like I literally
dropped them in front of the store. You dropped them in front of the store to play Monopoly or Munchkin. That's where you take them. You tell them to get. You don't want no part of this, Ricky Bobby. You don't want no. Sorry. What's the name? Doogie Cox. Dewey Cox. You don't want no part of this, Dewey Cox.
I'm gonna call him Dookie Cox from now on. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I definitely I get Modern Horizons. Every Modern Horizons so far has been just pushed. Like the first two did it, the third one did it for every format outside of Standard. Essentially, introduced new staples, new monstrosities, things like that. So I'll actually say I'm not as concerned with what we're seeing in Modern Horizons 3. Just because, to me, it's no different than what we saw in Modern Horizons 1 and 2. They use if anything, I do feel a positive in that. They use their most unhinged, busted, unchecked ideas and save it for Modern Horizons sets. That part I actually appreciate, because we know it's going to happen every couple years. We're going to have to deal with a bunch of crazy stuff and then figure out the consequences after. I have more fear about some of the stuff we're seeing in baseline sets, or even some of the Universes Beyond sets, or whatever it is. Like when the One Ring is printed in a regular, in a Universes Beyond set that is that powerful, that concerns me. Or if we get something in Bloomburrow,
So you're saying you're not worried about the complexity, or you're not worried about the power creep?
So I'm starting with power. I guess both. I don't think Modern Horizons in a vacuum is more complex than other sets, just because it felt like with Thunder Junction and even with Karlov Manor, there were 17 paragraphs per card anyway. So I don't feel like it's that much more complex because you can't really fit many more words than they've already been putting on a lot of these cards. I can't tell you what any of the legendary creatures did in those last 2 sets. So like, I don't think that it's not complex in Modern Horizons. I just don't think it's representing this like step up from everything else complexity wise. I think it's kind of similar, which is a whole another issue in that standard sets are almost matching in complexity to a modern made set. That should not be the case. But complexity.
I'm gonna challenge you on your complexity. I know we're closing out, but I'm gonna challenge you on complexity because we just went on a whole rant about Nadu. First of all, and then second of all, there's a whole deck. We totally skip over. There's a whole Commander Precon where it gives everything counters. What does that mean? We don't even have enough time to go into that.
You're 100% right. So I guess I can't say that there's no complexity. I'm not trying to say, but I guess maybe I'm just desensitized in the sense of from Modern Horizons, both the power and the complexity that we got was basically what I expected. Like, it's not anything different than I was expecting for there to be a lot of confusing things and a lot of busted things. Whereas I think in the standard legal sets that we're getting is where I'm most disappointed in complexity and power. Because even when we talk about introducing new players and bringing them in, I would never tell a new player, Modern Horizons, that's where you're going to come in. Like, I get it. If people don't have guidance, it's going to happen because it's the new thing. That's what people are going to buy. But I just, if you have guidance and you're getting told to come in on a standard set with Commander Precons and stuff, some of the new standard sets are so complex and so many things going on and things that are hard to track that it's like, that's the concerning thing to me, I guess, long-term for Magic is I think it's almost like a master set. Master sets back in the day were like very complex. They would put the most powerful cards in there. And I get that they were reprints, but trying to draft a master set versus drafting a standard set was a wildly different experience that you needed the experience to be able to do. Whereas I can't imagine being a newer person trying to draft a standard set now, spending all that time reading all those cards. I just can't. Like, it seems like, so that's I guess where my concerns lie most. I think Modern Horizons is scary. I don't look forward to playing against a lot of the cards. I think my biggest issue is a lot of the cards just don't seem fun. They just seem powerful but not fun, which is the worst possible thing. Like, fun busted stuff's great, but a lot of them seem miserable and powerful. But again, I think I've just been desensitized and beaten into the ground of Modern Horizons is here. I need to prepare just to be sad when I see these cards for a while, and that's just kind of how it is.
To round it out, I only have 2 concerns. My first concern is that your cat has attacked your head 3 times in the last 5 minutes. I have witnessed this, and if you need to call an abuse shelter, we are witnesses. And number 2, I don't know what he's looking at, but I think you may have ghosts in your house. I don't know what's going on up in there, but he is tracking a entity of some kind, and I don't like it. More power to you. But for the people who's listening to this on the toilet, because that's where you guys listen to your podcast, it's not at work. You sit there pushing one out on the bowl. We know where you are right now. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to us as we spew our half-baked knowledge. And maybe you can put in the description how you feel about these new sets.
Peace. That was.
But of course, like and subscribe. Thank you guys for listening and giving us your attention span. If Derek don't make it, that's the reason why. That is the reason why right there.
He's just a little baby, little violent baby.
I'm just a baby.